First, a controversial high-speed rail line is expected to be given the green light by the government later this morning. This first phase costs £32 billion. It's called the HS2 project, and it will speed you from London to Birmingham in 49 minutes. That is 30 minutes quicker than it is at present. This morning, our reporter Becky Johnson took the train from London Euston to Birmingham New Street.
We left Euston about, 20 minutes ago. So as you say, on the new high-speed line, we'd be in Birmingham in around half an hour. As it stands, we're not even in Milton Keynes yet, and we're still more than an hour away from Birmingham. Now, there are mostly commuters on this train. It is fairly quiet. If you just come with me, we can speak to Rick Lindemann, who's a commuter who makes this journey most days. How often do you travel up to the Midlands?
Daily.
Yeah, and you travel for work?
Yes, that's right.
So if the journey time were to be reduced, if High Speed 2 does get the go-ahead today, is it something you consider using?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it would save me a lot of time.
And what do you think about the cost of the project? Would it be worth the money?
I think the cost would be worth the money. I think it's, in these days, basically time is money. So basically people do need to get to places to work as quickly as possible. I also think the fact that the project seems to have cross-party support indicates that people understand that it is of benefit to the economy, benefit to the country.
OK, Rick, thank you. Well, if you just come over here, Laura Ford, how often do you make the trip up to the Midlands?
It's quite occasionally. I usually travel to Nottingham or Derby, actually.
And are you going for work to Birmingham today?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Now, what do you think about this HS2 project?
I think it's a great idea, but I just worry that I probably wouldn't be able to afford the train costs.
And what do you think about the cost of the project, £32 billion?
Yeah, that is a lot of money, and you'd want to make sure that everyone's going to benefit from it as best they can, and I'm not sure everyone will.
OK, Laura, thank you very much. Well, as you see, Eamon, even a range of views among people who make this journey regularly. You can't quite see out the windows, but if you were to see, you'd probably be able to see some pretty nice countryside, and of course that's one of the arguments against HS2. But people here, you know, they're saying if it cuts their journey time, many of them are all for it.
Thanks, Becky. And talking about those arguments against, let's go to Great Missenden. It lies alongside the proposed route. Neil Patterson is there to tell us about the arguments against.
Yeah, well, Becky said there was a range of opinions on the train. Certainly no range of opinions here in Great Missenden in the Chilterns, where people's daily lives will be hugely affected by these changes. In essence, there has been a huge war of words ongoing for quite some time. In one camp, you have the government, you have business unions, and of course Network Rail, all saying that they need to improve capacity, they need to improve national and international connections. And of course, this project will bring economic benefits. Some have estimated some £44 billion over the next 60 years. However, those who live here essentially have two concerns. The first is that they're being portrayed as NIMBYists, the not in my backyard brigade, who are happy to enjoy the benefits of living here in one of the more beautiful parts of the English countryside, but unwilling to take the pressure. They say that that's simply not the case and can point to a variety of research. In fact, this morning the Institute of Economic Affairs has again released some research that was pretty widely circulated here when it was released some 6 months ago, saying the government is ploughing ahead with a hugely expensive project whose economic case is flawed, whose time savings claims are dubious, and whose environmental case is highly suspect. Those are the arguments that people here are making. I mean, imagine, if you will, Eamon, this is a very quiet part of the countryside. In the not too distant future, there will be trains ploughing through the back gardens of some of the people we've spoken to this morning at around about 225 miles per hour. A huge change for those that it's affecting here.
Thank you very much indeed. Joining us now in the studio, we've got Oliver and James Phelps, and these lads are actors. You'll know them from the Harry Potter films, but they're both campaigning against this whole high-speed train situation with the Action Alliance. I'm going to be talking to you after a rundown with the other news with Charlotte.
Yeah, and elsewhere today, Ed Miliband is to set out a new direction for what he will call a changed Labour Party. In a speech later, he will say Labour can deliver fairness where there is less money around. Next time we come back to power, it will be different. Whoever is the next Prime Minister will not have money to spend. He'll also say the ideas which won the 3 elections won't be the ideas which will win the election in 2015. So we will be a different party from the one we were in the past, a changed Labour Party.
The big problem you've got as leader of the opposition is everyone somehow expects you to be able to get into government immediately. But of course there isn't going to be an election until 2015. It takes time to establish yourself with the public. That is precisely what Ed is doing, and the speech he's making today is another stage in that process.
And we'll have full coverage of Ed Miliband's speech from 11 o'clock this morning, live here on Sky News. Marks & Spencer and Debenhams have posted disappointing sales figures for Christmas. M&S sales were up just 0.5%, with strong food sales making up for a fall in general merchandise. Debenhams reported zero growth for the 18 weeks to January, and there's not much light at the end of the tunnel, with profit margins expected to be squeezed throughout 2012. Plans will be outlined later to give Scotland temporary powers for a legally binding referendum on independence. The Scottish Secretary, Michael Moore, is expected to tell MPs the coalition wants the vote to be held sooner rather than later. It follows a warning from the Prime Minister that uncertainty about Scotland's future is damaging the economy. The first ballots have been cast in the Republican presidential primary in New Hampshire, and a warning that these pictures contain flash photography. As is tradition, voters in the small town of Dixville Notch were the first in the state to vote. Out of a total of 9 votes cast, Mitt Romney and John Huntsman both received 2 votes. Romney won last week's Iowa caucus, and he is expected to win in New Hampshire as well.
Right, OK, let's continue to talk about this high-speed rail link, and we've had a lot of comments for and against today. More for or against, what would you say?
It's pretty evenly split, actually.
Pretty evenly split, OK. Not at all evenly split. James and Oliver Phelps, the actors, are with us now. They play the Weasley twins, Fred and George, in the Harry Potter movies. Lads, where do you stand on this?
I think we're both strongly against it, really. I mean, we kind of we don't live anywhere where the line itself, when it's built, is going to affect. But we've both been taxpayers since we were 14. And it's going to cost each household £1,700 when this thing gets made.
There's so many different figures on this.
Yeah.
I saw somebody coming up with £5,000 per household as well. But, you know, I've had people on this morning and they're saying, look, it's for the greater good, it's for the greater economic good of the country, and that's what it's about.
I think that's fine. That's only the one argument. I mean, the initial project from London to Birmingham is going to be £17 billion. So, like you say, shave just under half an hour off the journey. When there's cuts going on everywhere else, this is really the right time to do this.
But why, of all the things you could protest about, why is this getting you hot under the collar? I mean, I could imagine if you came to me and said, look, we've got a nice house, or my dad's got a business or something, and we're going to lose that, I can totally understand that. But, you know, why is this one getting you so bothered?
I think, well, actually, I kind of stumbled across it in general. I was doing the Three Peaks Challenge earlier last year for Great Ormond Street, and in doing that I was preparing and did a lot of walking. And I walked through this little village in South Staffordshire, and in the middle of the countryside, and I just saw no HS2 all over. I didn't really know what it was about, so I went home and did some research and put on Twitter, you know, what's HS2, what's all this about? And I just got this huge, like, just wave of people.
So you're giving these people a voice and a face and a presence, I suppose, that many of them aren't getting.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, the main thing what we're about is that we're not against high-speed rail at all. I mean, high-speed rail would be great in a perfect environment, but I mean, Ed Miliband, they're talking about how he wouldn't have money to spend. He definitely won't if this thing goes ahead. There's £2 billion. I mean, they're cutting, every government is cutting back in the public sector all over. Yeah. You know, surely they'd be better putting jobs there in councils, nursing, policing, than in a single high-speed rail line.
And you think then, if it comes to high-speed stuff, they can upgrade existing lines?
I mean, they're on about capacity and everything. I mean, I get the train from Birmingham to London at least once a week, and I'm fortunate enough to travel in the first class bit, but that's always at least at most half full. It's never completely round. Where you look in standard, that's full but not completely full. So why not get rid of one train in first class and put one or two on the back of standard class?
So what you're really saying is, if they made the service better as it is, if they upgraded what they're doing, if they put more trains on the line and made all those more efficient, you think that's a better use of the money?
Yes, and also because, like, the commuter belt in general, like, I'm sure that a lot of people say they're not happy with the annual commute into the city centres all up and down the country. So I think that would benefit more people, more taxpayers all over the country who will benefit, as opposed to just these lines.
OK, well, that's your view. What have you got against that, Charlotte?
Yeah, well, people are really split on this. There are lots of people that support what you're saying, but Mark Savary, for example, says it's brilliant news, it's great for industry. Most countries have a good high-speed train service. Let Britain have a great one. So that's a lot of things that people are saying we should be investing now to make the transport system better.
But the thing is, though, that in countries like France, where they've got the Lille to Paris or Seville to Madrid in Spain, that they've actually found that most industry is moving from the outer city to the capital city. and jobs are going totally the other way. So this is, say, Birmingham to London. Well, jobs will be going from Birmingham to London. It just doesn't.
Just this week, actually, in Holland, their equivalent of the high-speed rail, it's been open 2 years, and it's been costing the government, it's been costing the company, sorry, about over £300,000 a day. And in 2 years of operation, the government have had to bail it out because the commuters are just refusing to pay the high prices. So will that be the... I mean, it's a sort of a standard return from Birmingham to London now is at least £100. How much is that going to be in 12 years' time, plus this paying for this new system?
Well, James and Oliver, very interesting to hear from you, and the time scale over which this is involved. You're saying, for the sake of half an hour on that journey, it's not going to change your life. The government will say, look, it's not just about that, it's about capacity, it's about giving the image abroad to other countries that we are a modern nation, but it's not going to be ready, even the first phase, for 14 years. 14 years is...
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, surely in that instance, if they were to adapt, if they were the government to invest in super fast power broadband, or internet like that, because it's a lot easier to have a conference call than it is to get people up and down the country if they want to expand business.
OK, guys, thank you very much indeed, James and Oliver. We've got another actor in after this.
Yeah, we noticed, yeah.
Joan Collins,
yeah.
It's just an average day on Sunrise, you know.
Just an average day there. Guys, thank you very much indeed. The Hollywood actress that is Miss Joan Collins.